Happy Easter, guys. It's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. I got a fascinating competency evaluation that has no answer because it's just too hard for them to figure out. So we have lawyers versus doctors, and they're both experts in their own way, and the judge has to decide. Let's go.
And I'm checking to see if Ms. Hickman has logged on, Your Honor. Let me email her.
Who is Ms. Hickman?
She's the doctor, Your Honor.
She's the person with the time constraints. All right. All right, thank you. Well, if she's not, I'm going to go ahead and start moving on to something else because everybody's got time constraints here.
I can speak to his case as well. I'm also here.
I have two witnesses, one who did the report and one who made the recommendation.
They're struggling with technology today, but while they're doing that, this is case like 900 of the things, the wait list they have to do.
For some reason, nothing about this WebEx seems to be working like it usually does. I also cannot move my screen around with the participants, so I'm going to have to kind of play around with it a little bit. So Ms. Musson, is your client on the screen?
No, Your Honor. Yes. Is that you, Ashad? Down at DBHTD?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yes, Your Honor.
So we have so there's Mr. Anderson, and now we have Miss Musson. You are here, and then also Mr. Whiteway, and then of course we have Dr. Shahar. And are you still trying to get your other doctor, Miss Musson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can we start with what we have here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. And so the hearing today is a hearing on, well, we'll do openings and you'll get me set up from there. I'm trying to get copies of all the paperwork here now. So we are on the record in the case of the state of Georgia versus Ashad Anderson, which is SPCR 2103925J5. The defendant is present by video conference, as is his counsel, Ms. Sky Musson, and his counsel for the state, Mr. Christian Whiteway. This matter is being conducted by video conference pursuant to the Georgia Uniform Superior Court rules, and it is being live streamed to the public and is available at the court website for for public access. That said, I will hear openings first so that you can set the stage and tell me what we are hearing here today. I will turn it over to both counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, our request today of the court is that Ashad Anderson, as the court may remember, a report was done and we had a hearing. The report was dated October 4th, 2022, at which time Dr. Oliver opined that Ashad was incompetent, non-restorable. The court ordered him to Georgia Regional in an order that was dated January 13th of 2022. After waiting for some time, he was admitted to Georgia Regional. He has now been there well over 90 days, Your Honor. And in that time, it is my understanding that they have not made any strides necessary in restoring his competency, and that they are still opining him incompetent to stand trial, and that he does not necessarily meet the criteria for inpatient civil commitment, and that they're recommending a discharge to live with his grandmother with the appropriate DD and wraparound services. And so that is what we would be requesting of the court today.
So they're recommending. I'm trying to pull it up now, but I'll look at it in just a second. But they are recommending outpatient.
Yes, Your Honor. They stated that he does not, in the last paragraph before the signature, it states that he does not meet the criteria for inpatient civil commitment and recommends discharge to live with his grandmother where he would receive the appropriate DD and wraparound services. As such, the team has begun working on the development of a monitored discharge plan, which will be submitted to the court for review upon completion. And so we are asking that the court adopt those recommendations.
Okay, all right, give me just 1 minute and then I'll hear from you, Mr. Whiteway. I'm just pulling up the report, so give me just a second. And Mr. Whiteway, you also have the copy of that report dated January 10th, 2025.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, all right, Mr. Whiteway, your position?
Your Honor, the state agrees that he is not competent at this current time. The state is questioning the non-restorability that the doctor states. And if the court were to determine that he is non-restorable, the state then questions whether or not he should be, not whether or not he should be inpatient, but whether or not he should be civilly committed on an outpatient. We believe that he should at least be civilly committed outpatient, that he should not be living with his grandmother.
All right, so to be clear here, as I understand it, then you would agree from your reading of the report that he is incompetent at this time to stand trial, but your question is, your disagreement is whether he is or is not restorable is the first line, is your first line, and if he is restorable, then you're suggesting he be restored inpatient.
Yeah, if he is, if the court finds that he is restorable, that he remain where he is to continue his inpatient treatment to attempt to obtain restorability for the because this is only like 5 days. If the court finds that he's non-restorable, then the state would request that he would at least be civilly committed on an outpatient basis. I don't believe he should be living with his grandmother.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Call your first witness. Everybody's muted.
Yes, Your Honor, I apologize. At this time, I would call Fran Shahar with DBHGD, Your Honor.
Ms. Shahar, please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the evidence you should give the court on the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shahar, will you state your name for the record?
Francine Shahar.
And where are you currently employed?
I'm a contract forensic psychologist at Georgia Regional in Savannah.
And what kind of training have you received in forensic psychology?
Your Honor, the state will agree that she is an expert in the field of forensic psychology.
All right, moving on then, thank you. And Ms. Shahar, or Dr. Shahar, what is your involvement with Ashad Anderson?
Now, before she answers, try to recognize, how the prison system is in Georgia. People are in there for 800 days without even being indicted of anything. I mean, it's crazy. She works in the mental health unit at a huge hospital. So, as you can imagine, people are there. He was supposed to be there for 90 days, and he went in August. So, it's the same. It's the mental health system there and the prison systems are suffering the same issues.
I'm the psychologist. I was the psychologist on the unit. So I've had very frequent contact with him, formally and informally, just being on the unit.
And are you aware how long he was on the unit at this time? How long he's been at Georgia Regional?
I gotta pull that up again. My screen just went blank. 1 second. Oops.
Has it been longer than 90 days at this time?
I believe so, but I can tell you exactly. Okay, so his admission was August 12th, 2024.
And he has been at Georgia Regional since that time.
Yes.
And today is April 15th of 2025, correct?
Yes.
And were you able to observe the program that he was put through while at Georgia Regional in an effort to restore competency?
Yes.
Let me interrupt you a second to make sure that my notes are correct. That was August 12th of what year? August 2022?
24 was the admit date.
2024. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, he's been in classes for the competency, but the issue with him is that he has an IQ of 53 last tested, and that's static. That's not going to change. That's not something that is amenable to treatment.
Understood. And you were the person who was in charge of making the recommendation as to whether he should remain inpatient or outpatient, correct?
Well, he doesn't have a mood or thought disorder. He only has the developmental delay disorder. So my understanding of statute is that developmental delay is not sufficient for inpatient civil commitment or outpatient civil commitment, as far as I know. But yes, he has not been a danger to himself. He's not been a danger to anyone else. He's been a model patient. He's very sweet. He has no infractions of any kind, but he's got an IQ of 53.
And while he's been at Georgia Regional, are you aware, has he had family support?
Yes. He and his grandmother have a good relationship. There have been no behavioral issues as long as he is living with her. I understand the relationship with the mother is conflictual, but not the grandmother. And
is it your recommendation he leave outpatient to live with the and receive appropriate services?
Yes, we're in the process. I believe we've secured already developmental disability wraparound services for him. We did that while he was in the hospital so that he could leave with full support. He's not able to take care of himself or manage his own affairs because of his intellectual impairment.
And are there other factors that led to recommendation as to his long-term placement should be?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up there. I couldn't tell.
I apologize. Are there other factors that you took into place in making your recommendation his long-term placement? Discharge?
Well, we don't get into the merits of the case, but we are aware that there has been some disputes about, these are very severe charges, and there's been some questions regarding the credibility of that. So that, of course, enters our thinking, even if we don't consciously think about that. The fact that there's some credibility issues on the report, on the allegations that he has no history of criminal conduct or sexual misconduct or any kind of misconduct, and that he has followed the rules, and that when he is with his grandmother, she takes him where he has to go. She takes him to his appointments. He follows what she says. So all of that becomes part of our thinking.
And with that being said, were you the one who would have written and completed the development monitored discharge plan?
The social worker develops that, but I just fill in the top clinical part of that. But I certainly sign off on it as well.
And you feel comfortable signing off on the plan as presented?
Yes, with monitoring, yes.
With monitoring. And what kind of, and the monitoring would be through, or do you recommend additional monitoring?
I'm a little unclear about that because I'm not clear on the statute if somebody who doesn't have a mood or thought disorder can be civilly committed at all. So I defer to the attorneys on that.
And here's the first one, the first issue. The doctor's trying to figure out legally what things mean instead of just what things mean. And then the court does the same thing. And they try to figure out medically what things mean instead of sticking with legal.
Our recommendation was FCC monitoring with in the home with the grandmother with wraparound services and monitoring.
Thank you. No questions, Your Honor. I turn over the witness.
Mr. Whiteway.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, doctor. So you said that he doesn't have. He's only been diagnosed with BD, correct?
Moderate intellectual impairment, which is severe. We're talking about somebody with an IQ of 53.
I understand. Now, the report. Are you familiar with the report of January 10th?
I didn't write it. I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I'm not the author of it.
I understand. Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
Okay. That report indicated that he has some paranoia, correct?
I have not experienced him as having paranoia.
Okay. The report indicates that Mr. Anderson reported prior visual hallucinations, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
No. Okay.
I don't know what. I wasn't there in the interview.
Okay. You're familiar with Mr. Anderson, right?
Yes.
Okay. He hasn't told you that he was seeing the ghost of his aunt who came back to check on him?
He never said that to me. No.
Okay. Are you aware of the fact that other staff have reported that Mr. Anderson has been responding to internal stimuli?
No, and I want to also tease apart what is a hallucination and what is a recall of a dream, because I don't know that he can differentiate between the two.
Well,
and again, these are not things that were reported to me. These are.
Can I interrupt for just a second, because I'm having a very difficult time following, and the reason I am, Doctor, is because you're not answering the question first. If you wouldn't mind, and then explain away, but you're giving the explanation, and I don't know the answer to the question.
Okay.
So, for example, he was asking if you were aware of certain things.
Right.
And either you are or you're not.
Right.
Then he can ask your thoughts about it, and the whole thing will make more sense if you would answer those questions. So if you could sort of start over with that, Mr. Whiteway, I'll be able to follow it.
Doctor, are you aware that that the report indicated some paranoia?
Yes, I am aware of that.
Okay.
And please, I don't want to stop you from explaining. I just need you to answer the question first.
Yeah.
Doctor, are you aware that he reported that he had visual hallucinations?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. Are you aware that other staff have reported that Mr. Anderson has been responding to internal stimuli?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay, so you are aware of those.
On the basis of the report, I am aware of that.
On the basis of the report. Okay. All of those things are indicative of something more happening, right?
They can be indicative of something more happening.
Okay. I mean, they're all indicative of some sort of schizo disorder, right?
No. People can have fleeting instances of psychotic symptoms that don't meet the criteria for a disorder. They don't rise to the criteria of a disorder, either due to intensity or frequency. So just because somebody reports, I hear my name called, which is a frequent thing that people without psychiatric disorders say. I keep hearing my name called. It doesn't mean they're schizophrenic. It means they're having a fleeting symptom.
So is a fleeting symptom of the ghost of his aunt coming to check on him, is that equivalent to hearing your name?
It can be if you are that intellectually impaired. It can be. And again, I don't know the frequency or the intensity, but he has never been diagnosed with a thought disorder or a mood disorder. So it doesn't rise to the level of diagnostic criteria.
I guess that's my question though, right? Is why hasn't it been looked at to raise that level if we're talking about something that is as specific as seeing the ghost of his aunt coming to check on him, other staff reporting that he's responding to internal stimuli, and having apparently thoughts of paranoia, and his hygiene apparently is poor. He can't take care of it. Why has it not been looked at?
Again, to meet criteria for diagnosis, it has to have a certain intensity and frequency. It can't be just something in isolation. It has to be part of a constellation. And he hasn't met the criteria for the full constellation. Just like you can have migraines and have a brain tumor, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a brain tumor. You can just be having migraines.
Well, tell me what other things cause hallucinations of this, are this vivid and cause somebody to respond to internal stimuli?
Well, again, we're dealing with his level of articulation and his ability to explain things. People often have hypnagogic experiences when you're between falling asleep and being awake, where you think you hear you're in a twilight space. Okay, so I don't know the context in which these reported symptoms happened. So that is one way where people think, just as I was falling asleep, I saw the ghost of my grandmother. That's not a psychosis. That's a hypnagogic state. That's one explanation. Another explanation is difficulty differentiating between a dream state and a non-dream state, and using simplified language that says, oh, I saw her, but it doesn't say in what context he saw her.
Mr. Anderson being seen by staff, and that staff indicating, according from the report, responding to internal stimuli. That's not his report and a failure to express himself. That's the report of qualified staff stating that, correct?
You cannot observe somebody responding to internal stimuli. You can infer it, okay? You can infer it because they are saying, what did you say? Or they're looking around, but it's not like you can do a biopsy and say, oh, that was a hallucination. It's an inference on the part of the staff. As are all psychiatric symptoms, an inference, because we can't do a biopsy.
The report, he denied it according to the report, and they observed it. And these aren't the words I'm making up. I'm not applying.
They observed. They observed something that is consistent with him responding to internalized stimuli, but we don't have an X-ray machine or anything that can say he in fact was hallucinating at the time. They inferred that, and I respect that they inferred that, but that is an inference.
He reports apparently that he feels targeted by specific individuals, and then parentheses it says possible paranoia.
That's not necessarily paranoid. It's dangerous on the unit. People get hurt. People get beat up. And he's an easy target because of his intellectual disability. And, if somebody is on a unit in which people get hurt and he says, I'm afraid that they're going to attack me, that is not necessarily paranoid. That may be him being cognizant of his surroundings. So
I'm afraid my cats are going to attack me.
Again, it's an inference.
So he essentially can't take care of himself, correct?
He's very low IQ. Yes.
And I just want some clarification about what you talked about with Ms. Musson. So do you or do you not take into account, I know that he doesn't have any criminal convictions, do you or do you not take into account the things that he's charged with and the facts that comes out through those?
You can't not hear it once you hear it. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, once you're aware of it, you're aware of it.
And you're aware that this happened to a family member in the home he was living in?
I'm aware that it is alleged that it happened.
I understand that.
I don't know what actually happened.
Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
When doctors sound like lawyers. Ah!
And so you still think it's the best place for him to still go live with family members?
Well, the proof is in the pudding. He lived with his grandmother from the time of the alleged event until his admission to Georgia Regional, and she was fine. She was supervising him. He was not having contact with the alleged victims, and so there's a record of him being successful in that environment.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Musson?
Yes, Your Honor. Just briefly. While at Georgia Regional, has Mr. Anderson been a target for victimization?
I'm actually no longer on that unit, and I don't know, but I am aware that there have not been any critical incidents events of him either initiating or being the recipient of behavioral infractions. However, he is an easy target because of his intellectual impairment.
And with his intellectual impairment is bad enough that it would impair sometimes the ability for him to express his emotions the same way that someone with a higher IQ. Would that be something that would be accurate in the situation?
Absolutely. He is not articulate. He has a very simple vocabulary and a very simple way of thinking about things. Which is one of the reasons we have to be careful when we draw inferences from what he says, because it's a very, very simplified means of communication.
And is it standard procedure if Georgia Regional staff were concerned enough about alleged hallucinations or manifestations to have him examined by somebody who would have been capable of making a diagnosis?
Well, I would have been capable, and the psychiatrist would have been capable. And he's not on any antipsychotic medications either.
What medications is he on?
I don't believe he's on any. Again, I have to every time I turn away, my page goes away. So let me. I don't believe he's on any medication.
And is there a medication? And this may sound like a stupid question. Is there a medication or is there a treatment that is capable of improving his IQ score from a 53 to something that would allow him to be capable of standing firm?
No.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Whiteway?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. And Doctor, I appreciate your time. You're welcome to stay. It's an open courtroom, but if you don't have any further business, you certainly can go.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Musson, you have your other witness?
Your Honor, I'm looking to see if Susan Hickman, yes, Your Honor, Susan Hickman is my second witness.
All right. So this is Dr. Hickman, is that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so Dr. Hickman, if you will raise your right hand, clerk's going to swear you in. You are muted. It's the phrase of 2024, 2020, 2025.
There we go. I was looking for the button.
You do solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give the court on the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
And Miss Hickman, can you state your name for the record?
Susan Lang Hickman.
And where are you currently employed?
I'm a forensic psychologist currently on contract with Georgia Regional at Savannah.
And Mr. Whiteway, would you stipulate that she's an expert, or would you like me to lay the foundation?
No, I stipulate.
Okay. Are you familiar with Ashad Anderson's case?
I'm familiar with his case. I do not work on his unit, so we do cross evals. So my only exposure to him, of course, was for the evaluation in October.
Okay. And
that's for my notes. Are you Miss Hickman or Dr. Hickman? Dr. Hickman. That's what I thought. Okay, go ahead.
And Dr. Hickman, why would you do cross evals?
I do that, I don't know that I can state accurately what their thinking is. What has been told to me is that it reduces bias. So when you're on the same unit, we begin to think of these patients in a particular way, and we want to give them the best chance of an unbiased evaluation as possible.
And you completed a report that was turned in, and I believe it's dated January 10th of 2025, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what were your findings?
My findings with Mr. Anderson is that he is not competent and likely unrestorable because he's had 3 of these, I think, the evaluations before. Not only am I judging his performance in my evaluation with him, but it's been the same result in terms of the opinion of evaluators across multiple settings. And as Dr. Shahar stated, his IQ is not going to change. And so what's impairing him is permanent. It's not going to change.
And are you aware of the dates in which he had these 3 assessments and or the doctors who provided them?
Yes, ma'am. Do you want me to tell them to you?
Yes, please.
All right. Dr. Heidi Oliver, that was October 4th of 22. His pretrial evaluation was by David Abbott, Dr. Abbott, September 21st of 18. And then the one on which his intellectual disability was firmly established in terms of our evaluation process was by R. Allen Williams. And this was May 23rd of 2017 for juvenile charges, where he did a battery of tests.
Understood. And to your knowledge, there's been no change in your review of those documentations at any time finding him or opining him incompetent and restorable. Is that correct?
Say that again. I'm not sure. You're asking, has my opinion changed?
No. Has there been a change in the reports and the opinions of the reports?
No.
And that opinion has remained incompetent and non-restorable? Correct. Okay. And what did he undergo at Georgia Regional prior to your report in an attempt to restore him?
They do competency restoration groups, and I think they meet with them individually as well. But there is groups that happen multiple times a week, presenting the information, drilling them on the information, questioning them about the information, etc.
And at the date of your report, which was January 10th, 2025, he would have been admitted on August 12th of 2024. So that would have been more than 90 days that he would have been in services by the time you completed the report, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And can you just highlight the main findings of your report for the court?
Let me report up so I can refer to it as well. And I mean, unless you want me to go in, you have the report in front of you, unless you want me to go into detail directly from the report, the bottom line for him is that he was unable to demonstrate any consistent understanding of what competency even means. and all of the concepts related to competency. For example, he couldn't define a plea bargain. He could state the 4 potential pleas and basic definitions, but where he gets into trouble with competency information is applying that knowledge in any way. The reasoning and understanding and ability to apply that knowledge is just simply not there. And again, this directly goes back to the intellectual issues. So he thought that the DA was on nobody's side, that the jury's job, he didn't understand neutrality. So there's also, he doesn't understand what happens next in court. So if you plead guilty, what's the next thing that happens? If you plead not guilty, what's the next thing that happens? So there's no rational ability to apply the information, even if he can parrot it back. If you ask it in a very specific way, sometimes he can parrot back the information that he's been taught. But then if you change it up at all, ask it in a different way, it's completely gone. So again, that gets to the intellectual issue. He was able to state his charges, but there was no indication that he would be unwilling to work with his attorney. But without an understanding of the court processes and the rationale behind them, I'm not, he couldn't effectively help with his defense.
Understood. And are you aware, I guess, that he was reporting either some hallucinations or some type of manifestation of outside influences on him when you did your report?
Yes, ma'am. Because I'm not on the unit, I have to talk with staff members. I have to review every record I can find, all the discipline, social work, activity therapists, the psychiatrists, the behavioral health counselors. I review all of their notes prior to and up to the time of the report. And of course, in getting ready for court today, I go back and review, because I'm not on the unit, and review all the current notes that are available as well. So when I do the report and gather that information, I start with what was being reported by the psychiatrist who did the intake evaluation. And so that information comes directly from that. And of course, the evaluator at that time suspected or felt like there was paranoid ideation going on, and that he had reported prior hallucinations of the ghost of his aunt visiting him. But, to Dr. Shahar's point, is what that actually is with this individual is hard to say. And the reason I believe they did not diagnose him with a psychotic disorder is because it did not consistently present. So when I look at the current notes, there is no indication, and staff have stopped reporting any perceived idea of internal stimulation.
And based on your expertise, your understanding of his IQ level, would Ashad be capable of understanding that that's something he would need to hide from somebody who was doing a report on him?
I do not believe so. I mean, on some level, can he decide, I'm not going to tell you that out of anxiety? Maybe, but not consistently. There's just not the practical and social reasoning skills available to do that on a consistent basis. I mean, that's just my opinion. Every individual is different, of course, but.
And in Ashad's case, did you see anything in any of the notes or any of the other reports that you reviewed that pointed to him being a risk to others or himself?
A risk to others, I'm sorry, say that again.
Or himself.
You mean self-harming behavior versus violence against others?
Yes. Did you see any evidence of either of those?
Not in the reports. As Dr. Shahar stated, he's not had any critical instances since being admitted. He's reported as being pleasant and cooperative, socially appropriate. There wasn't anything in the report to suggest he has been a behavioral issue or had any violent tendencies on the unit.
Is there anything that points to any type of sexual tendencies while on the unit?
No, the only note that I saw was that, they just flagged him as a risk for victimization because he was seen following a known sexual predator into the bathroom. And so that prompted a little more monitoring just to make sure that he was not victimized in a sexual manner. There hasn't been anything to indicate that he has sexually acted out on the unit.
And that flag was not on a shot in a negative way. It was on a shot in a protective manner.
Correct.
Okay. And at this point, do you believe that there are any resources that Georgia Regional can provide to Ashad Anderson that they have not already provided that would restore him to competency?
No, ma'am.
Do you believe that he meets the clinical requirements to be diagnosed with anything other than being intellectually disabled?
Not that I have seen in the notes, but again, remember, I don't see him on a daily basis. I'm not on his unit, so that would definitely be much more of a question for his treatment team.
Understood. No further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Whiteman.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, point to his history of violence. He does have a history of aggressive and violent behavior, correct?
Yes, according to the charges that I see, yes.
I mean, not just the charges, right? I mean, you have in your report that for the examples you gave where you suspended some school due to physical altercations. He threatened and punched his grandmother, correct?
Correct. Correct.
All right. Threatening and punching his grandmother, does that give you concern about your recommendation of having him go live with his grandmother?
I did not make that recommendation.
You didn't make the recommendation? It's your signature on this, giving that recommendation, correct?
To go live with his grandmother?
I mean, it says in the very last paragraph of your report, it says Mr. Anderson's multidisciplinary team believes that he does not meet the criteria and recommends discharge to live with his grandmother. And this is something that you adopted, correct?
Yes, you're right. You're right. That was an updated report. The reason I was confused is that the initial recommendation of the team was that he be placed at a DD facility once was available. And again, I'm not privy to the team's discussions, so I wound up having to ask them where they believe he should be placed, and that was the later recommendation. That's correct.
Okay.
Now,
Does that give you any concern?
I do. This is something I would have wanted to discuss if I were part of the treatment team, just because of his prior violent behavior, because in my evaluation of him, he has limited social ability to socially reason. Like you and I who have normal IQ, we can think ahead and think of what the consequences will be if I do this. This may happen. When you have a limited IQ, you don't have that foresight. Most people tend to be pretty impulsive in the moment based on their feelings, and so. But that's not to say that there's plenty of people who have normal cognitive, IQ.
And there we have it. Like, that is why everybody is stumped right now, because we have jail for criminals and, freedom for non-criminals. But the people in between, the people who may do criminal things but are not criminals because of mental health, or like him, he doesn't have a mental health disorder. His IQ prevents him from understanding consequences of his actions. So, it's all animalistic, fight or flight. He does what he feels like doing in the moment because he doesn't understand any consequences. We don't have anything in between for that. We either have jail or freedom. And that's where everybody is stumped. What do we do with someone like this? Where do we put him?
Who do heinous acts. So it's not to say that that's the defining factor, but it does interfere with that ability to reason as to what's in his best interest in the moment. And so if he's been aggressive with his grandmother before, and if the alleged charges, obviously, or any indication, I would want to see him be in a more restrictive environment before we take that next step. But again, I am not on that treatment team, so.
But that's your opinion based on your review of his history as well as current records and everything like that. Is that correct?
I would just want to take it slower,
okay,
rather than going immediately to family.
Okay.
Not that he can eventually go there, but for safety.
He's been there for 8 months. And it's not like he's getting any form of treatment. He's in the hospital, but he's not being treated. He can't be treated. This is it. This is it for the rest of his life.
I would just prefer to be slower than that.
Okay. As far as the for his competency, so you're not saying that he doesn't have the ability to, I'm going to use the term learn something, meaning like he could parrot it back. You're saying that he does not have the ability to actually apply it or reason it out or apply it to his circumstance. Is that right?
That's correct. Now, does he have learning difficulties? Yes. I think from the notes I just recently read, he is attending and attempting the information and competency, but cannot consistently answer the questions, or the questions will be
he's clearly obtaining some information because, you know, he's learning about, he's able to give you some information, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But whether or not he actually comprehends what that means, that's
Right.
your question, because it is.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I'm sorry. No, you're saying that he will never be able to actually understand what that means. He'll just be able to tell you the facts on the surface level.
Right. And the moment you change it up or ask it in a different way or ask him to actually apply that information, he just falters, and he just simply doesn't have the cognitive power.
While he's thinking, I just wanted to put out there, we have a Viber who has been told by someone who has the slightest inkling of psychiatry that he should learn psychology. And this Viber is already an expert. So this whole clip is for you.
Let me ask you this. I know that never mind. I go for the question, Shahar.
Ms. Lawson?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. At any point before preparing your report, did you speak with his grandmother?
No, that's just not part of my, process.
Understood. But the treatment team would have reached out to her and would have been working with her, correct?
Yes, that's generally the social worker.
And then you adopt their recommendations based on them going out and obtaining the facts and applying them to the situation.
That's correct, because I'm not part of that treatment team process.
Understood. And while there are allegations of possible issues with juvenile court, he has never been opined competent to answer for any of those allegations. Is that correct, to your knowledge?
That's correct. To my knowledge, every previous report, and I gave you the dates, all say the same thing: incompetent and non-restorable.
So he has never been able to defend himself against any of those claims, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, correct.
Okay. But you did submit an updated report that accepted the findings of the treatment team, and that recommends that he be returned to his grandmother, correct?
That's correct.
And to your knowledge, they would have met with her and or spoken to her prior to making such a recommendation? Correct.
Right. They go through all of that process to make that determination.
And would they have met with people who were on Ashad's unit, who would have been in regular contact with Ashad before making that recommendation?
That's correct. The recommendations are a multidisciplinary effort. So the activity therapist is in there, the psychiatrist, the behavioral health counselor, the social worker, all of nursing, all of them are part of making that recommendation. Or at least they hear the findings and agree or disagree before the recommendation is made.
And so those are people, so while your recommendation may be slightly different, you don't have a personal relationship with either Ashad or his grandmother.
That's correct, yes.
And the people who made that recommendation would have had, at minimum, a relationship with Ashad, if not also his grandmother.
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Let's see, Mr. Whiteway, anything further?
Further questions, Shahar?
Okay, I have just a couple of real quick questions, and then if the lawyers have anything follow up, please feel free. I'm just trying to fill up my notes, actually, Doctor. When we were talking about the grandmother, and then you said you would take it slower. It doesn't mean that he wouldn't eventually go with his grandmother or his family, but you would take it slower. talk to me about what you mean by slower. What would be another way to do this?
Right, the original recommendation or thoughts about placement was a developmentally a DD placement, and so when I say slower, I just simply mean more oversight.
DD placement. Okay, Georgia has them. Remember, I said there's no in between. Where do they go? DD placement could possibly be an answer if there was any available. But the chances of getting a bed in DD placement takes so long. I mean, incredibly long.
Initially, that when you step them down to a place that still has oversight, and make sure that they're functioning well outside of the hospital before we send them directly to family. Now, I don't know his grandmother, and I don't know the situation there and how much oversight she actually provides. But generally speaking, with family, there's way less oversight than in a facility.
Okay, and so this may have answered my next question. Do you know how old his grandmother is?
I don't, and that's definitely a question.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. All right, so Ms. Musson, did that bring up anything else you wanted to ask any questions about?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Whiteway?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And doctor, you are welcome to stay. It's an open courtroom, but if you have other places to be, please feel free to sign.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Musson, any further witnesses?
Your Honor, I actually have Miss Porter, his grandmother, present, and I think she could shed some light on this. So I would call Miss Eloise Porter.
All right.
Yeah, I wish she could shed some light on this, but you can't hear her. Audio's terrible. She's going to try to repeat back everything she says, sort of. So we're going to get an idea of what she says.
All right. All right. Ma'am, if you will please raise your right hand, the clerk is going to come and swear you in.
You do solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give the court on the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
And
you.
I am looking for her on here. Tell me her name again.
Your Honor, she's sitting next to me.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
That's
Your
why
Honor.
I didn't look at that spot. There she is. I can see her. That's great. All right.
And the court can hear her.
Yes, I think so. Tell me your name. That's how we're going to find out.
My name is Eloise Porter.
She's coming out a little bit garbled for me. Can you get her
Okay,
just a
hold
little
on
bit
one
closer?
second, Your Honor. Let me get a chair that puts her a little bit closer to my desk. Just one second.
Yeah, the chair puts her closer, but somehow makes her more difficult to hear. We're used to bad audio, though. We're survivors. We'll get through it. It's just a few minutes.
Okay. Now tell me your name again, ma'am.
My name is Eloise Porter. I'm Shahar grandmother.
Emily.
Eloise Porter.
Eloise Porter. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, you can proceed.
And Miss Porter, your relationship to Ashad is you're his grandmother, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you prepared to have him reside with you full time?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old are you?
67.
And at this time, are you working a full time job?
When the child come on, I'm not working anymore.
Okay, so but right now, are you working a full time job?
Yes, ma'am. Full-time job.
And what type of job do you work?
I will take care of you.
And would you classify that as physical, non-physical labor, active? Active. Okay. And you said that you would not be working when Ashad got home. Can you tell me what your plans were if Ashad were to be placed with you?
My plan would be with Shahar every day.
Okay. And how would you be able to not work if Ashad was returned home? I will be getting a social security check every month. So you obtain Social Security?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that would be enough to pay for your necessities even without you working?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are you aware of, he was on bond conditions previously, you're aware
I want
of
to
those?
step in for just a good. Social Security, does that mean that you would apply for something that you don't already have now?
I already had it.
We already have this. Okay. Oh, so you could live on your Social Security.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it.
And are you willing to, those bond conditions, did they include not allowing him within sight or outside of your sight or sound when around any type of child?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you willing to continue that level of supervision of him?
Yes, ma'am. I would, it's not that level. Supervision.
And do you have a support system? Like family members or other people who are willing and able to assist you if you are not available?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell the court about that system? Who they are and what kind of support they provide to you?
My sister.
Okay, you may have to be a little louder just so the judge can hear you.
My sister.
Your sister?
Yes, ma'am.
And does she reside here in Savannah? Where does she live?
South Carolina.
And she's willing to make the drive into Savannah?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any other family members, church members, members of the community that support you? Okay. Does Ashad have any adult cousins or other people who support him?
Yes, right.
Okay. And who are they?
Carlisha.
And how old is she? 25? Okay. And other cousins? Oh.
You mean they hold the cup?
Yes. Any cousins or people who are going to support Ashad when he returns to the community?
Excuse me, Judge, but I cannot hear any of her answers.
Okay, you got to speak up, okay?
Okay, it's called Nikki.
Nikki? Okay. And how old is Nikki? How old is she?
What is that?
47? Okay. And other cousins or people? Does he have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old are they?
60.
So are they adults or children?
Sure. Okay, Jamila,
Jamila? Okay.
Jamal,
Okay.
Anaya, his twin.
Anaya, his twin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so they would be around his age?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. And they're willing to support you if you have an afternoon where you need to go to a doctor's appointment or something like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so but currently right now you are working full time and your plan is to quit working, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And to be a full-time caregiver for Ashad.
Yes, ma'am.
And have you met with or talked to people from Georgia Regional about the things that Ashad would need to do?
Yes, ma'am. I already talked to them.
Okay. And have they helped you or stated that they'll help you get all of that set up if you were to be released?
Yes, ma'am. You already told me this. Yes, ma'am. They told me all that.
And you're 100% willing to do that?
Yes, ma'am. 100%.
All right. No further questions. But the other attorney is going to have questions for you, so you need to listen and you need to speak loud so that he can hear you, okay?
Right.
I don't think that testimony went as well as she wanted it to go.
Before we do that, we're going to take a very, very short.
I'm going to tell you, I don't have any questions. I don't have any.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. In that case, any further witnesses?
No further witnesses for the defense, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Whiteway, anything?
No witnesses.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll hear any argument.
Your Honor, may I reserve?
Yes, Mr. Whiteway.
Yeah, so I think that it really comes down to this. I mean, I think at this point, he's fully non-restorable. I mean, it sounds like he can learn a couple of things, but he's not ever going to be able to apply them in a manner that's going to get him to competency. So the question is, what are we going to do with him? Where are we going to put him? Where's he going to live? I think that Dr. Hickman's advice is probably the wisest course here. We're talking about some really serious charges, and these aren't the only time he's ever been in trouble. I think, again, all respect to his grandmother, I'm glad that he has a family that supports him and cares for him and wants to take care of him. But I think that the wisest thing to do is to take this slower. I think that the court can find that he is, that he does meet the criteria for outpatient civil commitments. I think there's evidence that he probably does have some sort of mental health issue. But the court's found before that he can be, for people to be.
He was found not to have any mental health issue.
Committed on an outpatient basis, based on DD. And I think that's what the best course of action should be. And there is some evidence that the multidisciplinary team considered that. That was something that they were like going to do, and then apparently changed their mind to the grandma. So there was some talk about that, and I think it was probably the wise decision for everybody. It doesn't mean it can't change next year, but let's see how he was doing first, because unfortunately he has a violent history and he's got charges that are of a very serious nature that have significant consequence. So I would like to see him just go to a DD facility, a facility committed to outpatient basis. I think that's probably what's best.
Okay, so a moment. All right, thank you, Ms. Musson.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the issue we have here, and I believe the state has conceded this, is that he's incompetent and non-restorable. We heard from the doctors, there is nothing that Georgia Regional nor anybody else can provide.
I think we can agree on that. I think the question really comes down to what happens with him.
And Your Honor, here is the thing, is I understand that there are slight differing opinions, but at the end of the day, what goes in the report and what is signed off on after meeting with a multidisciplinary team that knows Ashad, and Ashad has not been at Georgia Regional for a short period of time, Your Honor. This isn't, it's supposed to be a 90-day report, but he's been there for 8 months. So he's been there from August 12th of 2024 until April 15th of 2025. During that period, he has not victimized anybody else. He has not shown to be a danger to himself. He has not done anything. And his grandmother has been there supporting him, Your Honor. And so that multidisciplinary team has had 8 months to come up with what they have recommended. And these are people who work with Ashad, know Ashad, have worked with his grandmother, have spoken to his grandmother. It's not something that they pull out and then spring on the family, Your Honor. It's something that they worked towards over the 8-month period that my client has been detained at Georgia Regional, with something where he is incompetent and non-restorable. So, Your Honor, we're asking that he be released on the plan that's been set forth. If he fails, the court can always step in. We can put him on regular checkups. I mean, his grandmother has learned how to use the WebEx. She also knows that she can come to my office. We can put him back on bond conditions that allow this court to keep very close contact of him. But the idea that we would delay him at Georgia Regional even longer, when there is nothing going on at Georgia Regional except for he's been flagged as a risk to be a victim himself, is problematic to find DD housing when a group of professionals, people who do this all day, every day, who know his history, and the reality is we can sit here and they can attempt to call him violent, but the reality is that where Ashad is concerned, he has never been competent enough to actually answer to any charges. So those are allegations as far as I'm concerned. And these are allegations here. And if he was anybody else, we would be taking this into a courtroom. But instead, we're stuck in this limbo, a limbo that he'll never get out of because it's never anything that can be fixed. And so long term, it is going to be his family who is responsible for him. So I would ask the court to accept the recommendation in the report from Dr. Hickman that was put forth by a multidisciplinary team that knows Ashad, knows his family, and made this recommendation specialized for Ashad in lieu of keeping him detained in Georgia Regional while we try and find somewhere else that can take him from.
Okay, let me ask just a couple of questions. I take seriously the part also that he's never had an opportunity to answer to his charges, but and so he's not convicted of any. I agree with you, Ms. Musson. How old though is Mr. Anderson?
Your Honor, his date of birth is March 3rd of 2001, so he would have just turned 24.
24. Okay, so at age 24, then he has not had the opportunity to answer the charges. How many times though? Was it there was something in juvenile court as well?
Yes, Your Honor, that would have been.
I don't even know what it is because I don't want to cloud that right now. But you have what went on in juvenile court apparently, and he didn't answer to those charges. And now you have what's going on here, and he doesn't answer to these charges. And so I'm a little bit concerned with. I have some great concerns with because family would have been there the whole time. So I have some great concerns about it. So I am actually looking, I mean, I think there's no question, but from everything that I'm hearing here and reading that he is incompetent to stand trial at this point. And it would appear that he is non-restorable given the intellectual functioning. I don't know about, I will have to defer to the experts, and the only expert that has testified here has indicated that he is not, does not appear to have the issues that would make it appropriate to diagnose him with schizophrenia or with any of the other diseases of that nature. So I will have to assume that that is correct. But I am a little bit concerned with how we just let him out there when the professionals are also saying he doesn't appreciate a causal relationship between his actions and consequences of his actions. So let me just take a quick look at it and see. And I'm also curious, and I don't know that we'll ever know the answer, but why they changed their recommendation. And I fear they may have changed their recommendation because it's going to be difficult to find a placement. And so when you find family, that's a wonderful thing. But his mother does not sound like she's a good placement because I did not hear there were some issues going on there. So we have grandmother, and grandmother is not, she's not super elderly. I'm not trying to say that, but she is not going to be in the picture that many years. And so we need to make sure that we find that we figure out some plan that will get Mr. Anderson out of Georgia Regional, but hopefully keep him out of the jail as well and keep everybody else safe while it's happening. So let me just take a look at it and see. All right, thank you very much. That concludes everything having to do with Mr. Anderson. We now have.
So we made it to the end, and let me just tell you, I'm mostly on his side. I want to protect grandma. She's trying the best. She wants to take care of him. I get it. I do. I'm on his side because I want to protect grandma. However, I can't disagree with any word that she said. We have experts. We have doctors who have an entire team, social workers, therapists, psychiatrists, an entire team working with this family. And they have met everyone in the family. And they developed this plan to place him with grandma. I can't go as far as to say every single person on that team was just like, screw it. It'll take too long to find him placement. Let's just put him with grandma. They're experts. They are, you got to be able to trust experts when they give you an opinion. You have to be able to trust that opinion, or why bother with experts? So then you have the judge, and I can't disagree with anything she said. She's like, he has never had to, stand for his crimes in the past. We don't know if there are crimes or not. She made that, a positive. We don't know if he ever committed a crime. He was never convicted. She leaned it back towards the other side. We don't know if he's ever had, if we can do anything about it if he commits a crime. And her job is to keep everybody safe, including grandma. And his job is to keep everybody safe, including grandma. But the doctors, their job is not to put grandma at risk. Their job is to tell you and their expert advice on how they feel this should go. And they did. So now we have a judge who is a professional, who has to maybe override a doctor who is a professional. And that's her job, to make those tough choices. So we don't get an answer on this because it's too hard. It's too hard. We have no idea how long it would take to find a DD placement, or if there's funding, if he qualifies. None of those were even touched upon, because the team, and his argument about the team was looking at it. Why did they change their mind? No. They changed their mind because they looked at what they had. They looked at the facts. They talked to the family, and they changed their mind based on that. They didn't just, I can't just believe that they changed their mind because it's the easiest thing to do. If it was just a doctor, maybe, but this is a whole team. And then I'm team checking up on them. And yeah, she didn't quite agree with that, but she doesn't know everything. The team knows everything. That was just one piece of advice. So I don't know what's going to happen to him. I don't know much longer he's going to stay locked up. They're right. He's a prime victim in there. Scary place. So who knows? But I found that fascinating, and I thought you would enjoy it too. Happy Easter. Thanks for coming out, guys. Bye.